Right, thanks, Rodney. Yes, we've got some real challenges here in the Gisborne district. I know a lot of people from here are from outside the Gisborne district. We're a unitary authority, so at the time of local body amalgamation, Gisborne district, no one wanted us. Bay of Plenty, Hawke's Bay didn't really want much to do with Gisborne, so we became a unitary authority at the time. There are now another 3 along the top of the South Island. So the Gisborne district, and it's an area very well known for its soil erosion, and we're only 8% of the North Island here in land area, but the very early land use surveys done in the North Island, we had 25% of the severe to extreme erosion. So that's 1 in 4 hectares of the severe or worse erosion on a scale of 0 through to 5. So from 3 through to 5, we had 25% of that was mapped in the Gisborne district. So what causes our erosion problems here in the Gisborne district? Firstly, we have soft rock geology. We'll go through real briefly through that in a minute. It's our climate, so we have quite a high rainfall, particularly inland, and the vegetation clearance that occurred here in the late 1800s. So all those factors put together, we've had a real erosion problem in the Gisborne district. The geology we have here, the Motu type materials over here on a Gisborne scale are very stable. A lot of South Islanders will think, well, they're not that stable at all. We then move over to these East Coast materials here. Now we'll pass right through that tomorrow, going through to Puketoro, which is about here, and then we've got some of that further up the coast, and that is very erosion prone. Not that steep in places, some quite easy sloping land in there, and we'll get some of the erosion forms I've got a little bit further on through here showing up on that. Then we have some volcanics. We've got some basalt right up the top here across the top of the Cape, so East Matakoa volcanic, which is a basalt, and throughout our district we also have some other ash covers. So this cover here, the Neogene, is Toliga group, and then out to Tokomara groups, younger materials here, a lot of Papa mudstones. Gisborne, Hawke's Bay renowned for Papa mudstone, pretty fertile in a lot of places, particularly in that Toliga group type materials, and out towards the coast, younger materials that are steeper and less fertile. A lot of our easier sloping country here has tephra cover, so from the volcanic eruptions over in the central North Island, and that varies in age. We've had some moderately older tephras in the northern part of the district, and quite young over towards Matawai, and thicker over towards Matawai as you get closer to the source. And then we have just a very little amount of quaternary sediments in our district, and I'm only the river flats. We're only about 8 to 10% of the Gisborne district is flat land. The rest is hill country or mountainous back towards the Western Ranges. This is just an example of where we're going tomorrow. We'll go right through this, and we're on the more stable stuff over here, Mount Hikarangi, these areas back here, East Coast Greywackies, then we're into argillite, bentonitic clays. We'll see some bentonite tomorrow, and then we come out to the Toliga group material, which is Papa mudstone. So the change from here through to here is very, very rapid, within 2 or 3 paddocks on some properties. And in terms of training people in land use capability mapping, there's a real dream in there. You go from pumice, good mudstone, really highly erosion prone argillite, and then you're through into Greywacki. So it changes very, very quickly, and we'll see some good examples of that tomorrow. Our climate, we have a high rainfall in parts of our district, 2,500 millimetres inland from Ruatoria, so on North Island standard they're quite high rainfalls. Gisborne City about 1,000 millimetres, and Ruatoria about double that. So we have a reasonable rainfall, but we have a winter and an autumn concentration, so quite often we'll get quite wet winters. 2 winters ago in the Gisborne district, really wet winter, and it slows a whole range of things up, and perhaps the thing it has most effect on is our rural roads. During those prolonged wet winter periods we'll get earth flows, so they're from a long period of wet weather, and we're also very prone to tropical cyclones. So back in the 80s we had 2 or 3 in fairly close proximity to each other back then, and quite intensive events, and we seem to be getting some quite localised intensive events in the last couple of years. We've had one just at Easter of this year in inland Whangaroa, and up through the coast as well. and those are the events we get a lot of soil slipping. So short, sharp, high intensity rainfalls, and we get a lot of soil slips on our steeper slopes. We also, and this is some of the events we got at Cyclone Bowler, big deep-seated slumps. I'll show you some pictures of those just a bit further on. So what has been done? Our district plan, so we have a combined district plan here in the Gisborne district, and we have a rule here requiring effective tree cover on the worst eroding land in the district. So we've mapped out a large proportion of the Gisborne district, and within that we have a whole lot of what's called land overlay 3A. A lot of landowners will have 3A on their land. It's identified on our planning maps, and the requirement is to get that effective tree cover on the worst eroding land, and we have a time frame for that. It's by 2020. There is funding available through the East Coast Forestry Project, and that's funded through MPI, and staff available to look at that. Nick Pollux represents MPI, is with us here today, and yeah, that's the funding source for anyone who wants to deal with land overlay 3A in the Gisborne district. The red on this, so the red areas through here is a land overlay 3A, so that's a planning map at 1 to 50,000 scale in the Gisborne district. We'll have to make pretty clear that's quite a bad area for it, so we can see, let's go back over here, we're back into some of the grey wacky areas, not so much 3A, and we're into here, into Argillite, a lot of 3A through there. This is up in the area where we'll be going through tomorrow. There's the Marta River, so we've got some big areas of 3A in here, and they're areas that people are required to get effective tree cover in by 2020. Okay, so this is a picture here of on a property not too far from where we're going tomorrow, and the blue in here is a large area of 3A, so that landowner is required to deal with that and plant a range of species on that. We work in with the landowner. It's at his discretion what he wants to plant on there, and the council is supportive of that, providing we feel that it'll solve the erosion problem on that country. So types of erosion we have here, I'll just go through these real quickly because I have some pictures a bit further down. We have a series of a whole lot of gully systems in the district, slumping, earth flows, and stream bank erosion, and of course soil slips, which everyone attributes to a lot of soil erosion throughout New Zealand. Gisborne gullying, this is shot up the coast. This was forested in 1984, so I took that photo just before it went in. So deep gullies here, Papa mudstone, and a lot of material oozing straight into the gully below. So that's been forested since it's actually about to be harvested. So gullying is the effect of water going down the watercourses. Slips, this is an aerial from 1985 flood, so you can see a lot of soil slips through here. Some areas in the Gisborne district, Cyclone Bowler had up to 60% bare ground after the rainfall event we had there. Invariably on very steep country, thin skeletal soils, and often low fertility because of the steepness and the thinness of the soil profile. That's a slump and an aerial view of one that fell out in the Ngātapa flood in 1985. And this feature here is quite deep, quite a few metres deep, and it's the sort of thing that trees won't really hold when an event like that occurs. And these other features around the site are far shallower slips on Pava mudstone. Slumping, we'll drive along the top of this tomorrow, so this is the Marta Road right here. It's been forested since then, and when I took that photo, that was after Cyclone Bowler, the power lines were actually hanging in the air where the slump had fallen out below them, so it was quite a spectacular area for a while. These features are very, very deep and very large scale, so these are large mature poplar and willow over this side, and then this area here that's fallen right away right down into the gully. And this one here was Cyclone Bowler, so we've had the whole area slump, individual sheep all over that. This guy had very little in the way of stock losses, but this thing just fell out overnight and it blocked the whole creek at the bottom. So these are, to show you the scale of it, there'd be at least 40 hectares of land in that, and then this just frittered away, and the creek just disappeared over a short period of time because this material in here was almost liquid and very, very soft. This one here for farmer in the Kanakanaya, an area just over towards Tikaraka. This earth flow here just fell out one night. it was country like this, very fertile area, but very erosion prone and very wet at the bottom, and this is just a one-off occurrence early in the winter, about 1983. These are other earth flows, a little bit hard to see in there, but that's an oozing garly earth flow material in there. This one also just fell out overnight, and the trees actually were on it and travelled with it. So down the hill and created a little dam behind. Trees carried on growing through there, but very wet and quite deep, quite a deep feature. And this is stream bank erosion on a really bad scale. So the stream bank comes around and takes the toe of the hill with it, and that'll continue to fritter away. And each ensuing large rainfall event will get more and more erosion on that. So what can be done in the district, and this is what Jeremy was alluding to a few minutes ago, is a range of steps: tree planting, forestation, so that can be exotic seedlings, so we're looking for a closed canopy, large areas of land for that, and really bad erosion features on that. Indigenous species, not so much of that in the recent past, but it's something a lot of people are looking at, and something that there is funding available as well. Well, those two are looking at closed canopy on what are quite badly eroded areas. Reversion is an option that people are pursuing, and there is an incentive to allow land to revert. So on some quite steep erosion-prone sites, low fertility, and where there's a seed source, there is funding available to allow land to revert. Poplar and willow planting, and this is the one Jeremy alluded to, doesn't necessarily have to form a closed canopy, and it will be more pockets of badly eroding land, and perhaps the gully systems in there are sort of a moderate to severe erosion rather than severe to extreme. So the erosion perhaps not as bad, and the opportunities to continue grazing with poplar and willow planting are still there. There needs to be a stock management phase while those trees are being established. So there's also a lot of properties, and one that Ingleby, as we'll see tomorrow, have pursued a combination of these treatments. So they've been into some exotic seedlings, minimise that, a range of, radiata, they're into certainly indigenous species, some reversion, and a lot of poplar and willow planting on those properties. Also, structural support, there's no funding for any types of structures in the rivers, but the stream bank type erosion really needs some sort of tying back of structures in the river beds, such as river protection works, wire ropes, railway irons, that sort of thing. No funding available in this district for that at the moment, but there are some areas that genuinely need that sort of erosion treatment. This is an ideal treatment to me. This is in the northern part of the east coast, so the vulnerable gully systems have been allowed to revert. These features over here are very steep, they've been allowed to revert, and then we've got forestry on the better country within that. So that will be harvested into the future. Might well be some real opportunities for honey from in here, and when that forest's harvested, there will be a whole lot of access provided into here to get these trees out. Once again, with this one, this is a combination of treatments. So we've got forestry in here, we've got some reversion already, quite a lot of indigenous species growing there, and some of these areas are allowed to revert as well. And then on this better country through here, it remains in pastoral farming. This is a combination of treatments here, so allowing reversion in the gullies, and then planting of poplars and willows in the watercourses, and then the rest of the country really needs no further treatment to it, and is high natural fertility, highly productive, and so this is really a sustainable way of dealing with that, with a combination of reversion and poplar and willow planting. This one here is an ideal site for reversion, and perhaps the planting of indigenous species on the better parts of it, say through here. But some of the stuff here is almost vertical and very difficult to get on, and reversion would be an ideal option on that, and that's what's been pursued on that piece of ground there. And this is a worst case of that, so what we're into here is we never want to see land get to this stage, so this is as steep as it gets in this district, but it's highly eroded straight into the river, and what's happened with that area of land is it's been fenced off and allowed to revert. And this is just a combination of everything, so we've got some radiata in here, in the very worst piece of this gully, poplars and willows and indigenous regrowth throughout it, and then quite productive slopes right around this area. Bees, just species associated with erosion control. This is all quite new to us, so willow, manuka is becoming pretty popular, as everyone's been talking today. Certainly we'll look at other indigenous species and how can we assist. We can confirm if areas are land overlay 3A. If you think you've got some other 3A on your property, please see us about it. And we can certainly assist with funding applications and identify people who have expertise in each of those options that are available to landowners. Thank you.